5 years ago, I thought my wife's morning tea was her way of loving me, until I tasted poison in it and learned she was killing me to steal everything I owned for her lover. My name's Daniel Carter, and this is how my perfect life turned into a nightmare. Back in 2020, I was 33, living what I thought was the good life in Columbus, Ohio. My wife, Laura, and I had a picture-perfect 2-story house on a quiet street, with a white picket fence and a garden where Laura spent hours tending her roses and tulips. I'd pull into the driveway after a long day, my glasses steaming up from the Ohio chill, and see her out there, her blonde hair tied back, humming like she didn't have a care in the world. Laura was 30, fit from teaching yoga part-time, always dressed in those flowy skirts or tight leggings that turned heads. Her green eyes sparkled when she smiled, and that smile could make anyone feel like they were the only person in the room. I'd watch her from our kitchen window, sipping coffee, and think, how did a regular guy like me end up with her? I met Laura in November 2015 at a coffee shop on High Street. I was fumbling with my briefcase and a latte, my brown hair a mess, when she bumped into me, spilling her drink. "Oh, gosh, look at your shirt," she laughed, her voice like music. She insisted on buying me a new coffee, and we talked for hours. That was Laura, charming, bold, impossible to forget. We dated for 3 years, got married on June 15, 2018, in a small ceremony at a local park. By 2020, we were settled, the couple everyone envied. We tried for kids, but after a year of doctor visits and tears, it was clear it wasn't happening. Laura said she was fine, but sometimes I'd catch her staring at the empty nursery we'd painted, her face cold and distant. I figured she was just grieving, like me. Every morning, Laura made my tea, Earl Grey, brewed just right in a blue ceramic mug I'd bought her years ago. Around 7 a.m., she'd slide it across our oak kitchen table, her nails painted red or pink, and say, "Dan, you work too hard. Drink this, it's good for you." I'd take a sip, the warmth calming my nerves, and feel like she was my rock. My accounting job was brutal, long hours, endless spreadsheets, tax season that left me drained. Laura's tea was my daily dose of comfort, a reminder she cared. But in early 2021, I started feeling wrong. Not just tired, but sick. My stomach would cramp, my head would spin, and I'd get so dizzy I'd grip the banister to climb the stairs. I was 34, too young for this. In March 2021, I saw Dr. Patel at Riverside Hospital. He ran blood tests, checked my heart, even did a CT scan. "Everything looks normal, Mr. Carter," he said, scratching his beard. "Maybe it's stress. Try resting." I went home, told Laura, and she hugged me tight. "See, honey. You're fine. Just keep drinking your tea." I did, trusting her. The sickness didn't stop. By 2022, I was losing weight, my skin pale, my brown hair thinning. I went back to Dr. Patel 3 times that year, June, August, November. More tests, urine samples, another scan, even a stomach scope. Nothing. "Could be chronic fatigue," he said in November 2022, handing me a pamphlet. I felt like a fool, like I was imagining it. Laura was sweeter than ever, brewing my tea, cooking my favorite pot roast, but she started staying out late. Yoga classes, she'd say, coming home at 10 p.m., her phone buzzing. When I asked who was texting, she'd laugh. "Just a client, Dan. Don't be silly." In 2023, she mentioned a guy named Mark Reynolds, a real estate agent who hung around her gym. "He's just a friend from work," she said one night, brushing it off. I didn't push it. Laura was friendly with everyone, why would I worry? But the sickness got worse. In July 2023, I collapsed at work, my coworker Sarah Miller rushing me to the ER. "More tests, same story, we can't find anything, Dr. Patel said. Sarah, with her curly red hair and sharp eyes, wasn't convinced. "Dan, you look like death," she said, her voice low. Something's not right. By March 2025, I was 38, a shell of myself. I could barely work, my hands shaking as I typed. Dr. Patel finally ordered an intensive test, something called a toxicology panel, saying, "We've missed something. Let's dig deeper." I didn't tell Laura about it, I don't know why. Maybe because of that morning, March 15, 2025, at 7 a.m. I was in our kitchen, the smell of her roses drifting through the window. She handed me my tea, her smile tight, and I took a sip. It tasted off. Chalky, bitter, like someone had stirred in dirt. I frowned, staring at the mug. "You okay, Dan?" Laura asked, her voice soft but her eyes sharp, like she was watching a trap snap shut. I nodded, my stomach turning. "Yeah, just tired." That bitter taste lingered, not just in my mouth but in my mind. Laura's late nights, her secret texts, that guy Mark. It all started to feel wrong. I looked at her, watering her roses outside, and wondered, was the woman I loved hiding something? Or was I just a sick man losing his grip? That bitter taste in my tea on March 15, 2025, wouldn't leave my head. It was like a splinter, digging deeper every time I looked at Laura. I'm Daniel Carter, and by April 2025, I was starting to see my wife, the woman I'd loved for a decade, for who she really was. I was 38, but I felt like an old man. My hands shook, my brown hair was thinning, and I'd lost so much weight my glasses slid down my nose. The nausea and dizziness that started in 2021 were worse than ever. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., drag myself to our kitchen in Columbus, Ohio, and stare at the blue mug Laura filled with Earl Grey. "Drink up, Dan," she'd say, her blonde hair perfect, her smile too bright. I'd sip it, but after that chalky taste in March, I started pouring half down the sink when she wasn't looking. I didn't know why. Just a gut feeling something was wrong. Work was a nightmare. I'd sit at my desk, numbers blurring on my screen, while Sarah Miller, my coworker, watched me like a hawk. Sarah was 32, with curly red hair and a laugh that could light up a room. She'd been my friend for years, always bringing donuts to the office, always noticing when I wasn't okay. On April 10, 2025, she pulled me into the break room at 11 a.m. "Dan, you look like a ghost," she said, her blue eyes narrow. "You're not imagining this. Something's making you sick, and Laura's acting weird." I told her about the late-night calls, the way Laura mentioned Mark Reynolds, that real estate guy from her gym. Sarah leaned in. "You need to check her phone. Now." I didn't want to believe Laura was hiding something. We'd been through so much, 10 years together, the pain of not having kids. She'd cried in my arms when we gave up on a family, saying she loved me anyway. But Sarah's words stuck. That night, April 20, 2025, I waited until Laura was in the shower. It was 11 p.m., and her phone was on the kitchen counter, buzzing. I grabbed it, my heart pounding. The passcode was still our wedding date, 061518. I opened her texts and saw messages from Mark R. They weren't friendly. "Can't wait to be with you," one said. "When will it be done?" another read, sent at 2 a.m. My stomach dropped. I scrolled up, seeing months of texts, flirty, secret, some mentioning the plan. I put the phone down, my hands shaking, feeling like the floor was gone. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I needed proof. On April 28, 2025, Laura said she had a yoga event and left at 6 p.m. I followed her. I drove my old Honda to a fancy restaurant downtown, Parker's Bistro, and parked across the street. Through the window, I saw her, Laura, in a red dress, laughing with a tall guy. He had dark hair, a flashy watch, and a smile like he owned the world. Mark Reynolds. At 8:00 p.m., I watched them kiss, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. They were talking close, her lips moving fast. I couldn't hear, but I caught one word through the open window: soon. My heart broke right there, but it wasn't just the affair. It was the way she looked at him, like I didn't exist. I drove home, tears blurring the road. The next day, April 29th, I met Sarah at a diner on Main Street at 9 a.m. I told her everything: the texts, the kiss, the word soon. Sarah's face went hard. Dan, this isn't just cheating. You're sick, and she's sneaking around with this guy. What if she's doing something to you? I stared at my coffee, remembering the tea, the bitter taste. Like what? I asked, my voice small. Sarah leaned forward. Test the tea, Dan. Get it to a lab. And don't drink it anymore. I felt like I was in a bad movie, but Sarah was right. On April 30th, 2025, at 7 a.m., Laura handed me my tea, her green eyes watching me close. I pretended to sip, then poured it into a plastic bottle when she turned away. I dropped it at a private lab downtown, paying $200 to rush the results. I didn't tell Laura about the toxicology test Dr. Patel ordered back in March either. The results were due any day, and I was terrified of what they'd show. That night, I lay in bed, Laura asleep beside me, her breathing soft. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about our house, our savings, the $750,000 life insurance policy she'd insisted we get in 2020. We had no kids, so everything, house, money, all of it, would go to her if I died. And Mark, with his fancy car and big promises, was waiting. The pieces were coming together, and they painted a picture I didn't want to see. Sarah texted me at 10 p.m., lab results tomorrow. Call me. I didn't sleep. I kept seeing Laura's smile, hearing her say, drink your tea, Dan. I thought about the past 5 years, every sip, every sick day, every time she'd held my hand at the hospital. Was it all a lie? Was the woman I loved, the woman I'd built a life with, trying to end mine? I'd spent 5 years trusting Laura, believing her tea was love in a mug. But by May 2025, I knew the truth: she was poisoning me, planning to take everything for her lover. I'm Daniel Carter, and this is how I faced the woman who broke my heart and nearly took my life. It was May 13, 2025, and I was a wreck. At 38, I looked like I was 60, pale, shaky, my brown hair so thin I barely recognized myself. The nausea, dizziness, and weakness that started in 2021 had stolen my life, and no doctor could figure out why until now. I'd sent a sample of Laura's tea to a lab on April 30th, and Dr. Patel's toxicology test from March was finally due. I hadn't slept, haunted by what I'd seen: Laura kissing Mark Reynolds, their texts about the plan, her fake smiles as she handed me that blue mug every morning at 7 a.m. in our Columbus, Ohio kitchen. At 9 a.m., I sat in Dr. Patel's office at Riverside Hospital. My hands trembled as he slid a report across his desk. Daniel, we found ethylene glycol in your system, he said, his voice grim. It's a poison, like antifreeze. Small doses over time cause organ damage, exactly like your symptoms: nausea, hair loss, weakness. You've been exposed for years. My heart stopped. How? I whispered. He frowned. It's often ingested. Something you eat or drink regularly. I saw that mug in my mind, Laura's red nails as she pushed it toward me. Drink up, Dan, she'd say. I left the hospital, my head spinning, and drove to the private lab downtown. At 10:30 a.m., they handed me the tea results. Ethylene glycol, same as my blood. My stomach twisted. Laura had been poisoning my tea since 2020, slowly killing me. I thought about our house, the $750,000 life insurance policy she'd signed in 2020, our savings, all in both our names. We had no kids, so if I died, she'd get everything. And Mark, that slick real estate guy with his flashy car, was waiting to run off with her. I called Sarah Miller, my coworker and friend, at 11 a.m. We met at the Main Street Diner, same place we'd talked before. Sarah's red curls bounced as she leaned in, her blue eyes wide. Poison, Dan. She's been poisoning you. I showed her the lab report, my voice shaking. 4 or 5 years. She wants the house, the money, all of it. For him. Sarah grabbed my hand. You have to confront her. But be smart, get proof, call the police. I nodded, feeling sick, not from poison but from betrayal. I went home at 3 p.m. Laura was in her garden, watering roses, humming like everything was normal. Our house looked so perfect, white picket fence, green lawn, but it felt like a lie. I waited, planning. At 6 p.m., she came inside, her blonde hair loose, her yoga clothes tight. Hey, honey, she said, starting the kettle. Tea. I shook my head, my throat tight. Not tonight. Her smile faltered, just for a second. At 7 p.m., I asked her to sit in our dining room. The oak table was set with the lab report, the hospital results, and that blue mug. Laura's green eyes narrowed. What's this, Dan? She asked, her voice sharp. I took a breath, my heart pounding. You've been poisoning me, Laura. 4 or 5 years. Ethylene glycol in my tea. The hospital found it. The lab confirmed it. I slid the papers toward her. You wanted me dead for the insurance, the house, so you could run off with Mark. Her face went white, then red. She stood, knocking over a chair. You're crazy, she yelled. But I kept going. I saw you with him, April 28th, at Parker's Bistro. I read your texts. When will it be done? That was me, wasn't it? You and Mark planned to kill me. Laura's hands shook, her charm gone. She sank back into the chair, tears streaming. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she sobbed. Mark said it'd be quick. The money, the house, we'd sell it, start over. You gave me nothing, Dan, no kids, no future. I was trapped. Her words hit like a punch. I'd loved her, mourned our empty nursery with her, and she'd turned it into hate. Was any of it real? I asked, my voice breaking. Our marriage, our life. She looked away, silent. I pulled out my phone, already dialing 911. I'm done, Laura. Police arrived at 7:30 p.m., handcuffing her as she cried, her roses wilting outside. The next day, May 14, 2025, I sat with Sarah at the diner, staring at my coffee. Laura was charged with attempted murder. Mark was arrested, too, texts showed he'd bought the antifreeze. I felt empty, not angry. Our house, our life, it was all a lie. Sarah squeezed my hand. You're strong, Dan. You'll rebuild. I nodded, thinking about the years I'd lost, the trust I'd never get back. I'm starting over now, one day at a time. The tea's gone, but the bitterness lingers. I loved Laura, but she loved my money more. Maybe one day I'll forgive her, but today, I'm just glad I'm alive.